By the way, you know they're having a celebration of them on September the 5th. Trump celebrating the J6 people. I thought my boss, President Clinton, made an undeniable point of Democratic policy. Since the end of the Cold War, there have been 51 million jobs created in the United States. 50 million were created under Democratic presidents and 1 million under Republican presidents.
You know, that's
50 to 1.
You've got to be able to tie. If you're going to make claims like that.
First of all, I love you. I love Clinton. That's a thing to say.
Okay.
Because as we both know, am I right?
Yeah.
As we both know, jobs created, it has a lot to do with what the last guy did. Clinton got rid of Glass-Steagall. Did that have anything to do with the collapse in 2008 of the economy? I think it did. So maybe some of the jobs that were lost.
I'm sorry.
It's just a bullshit thing.
Bill Maher just torched another woke guest, and wow, it was a sight to behold. The guy walked onto the show thinking he and Maher were teammates on the same ideological battlefield. Big mistake. Maher had the flamethrower ready. What followed was a glorious takedown that reduced woke wisdom to ashes. There's a lot to unpack here, so buckle up because this one gets seriously spicy.
The other thing I think we've been pretty aligned on is that the Democrats do better when they're center-left and not far-left.
Certainly.
It's better policy and it wins elections.
Right.
How do you think they did their convention with convincing the country that they are now back to the center-left as opposed to the far-left?
Well, first of all, you and I agreed, but that was one tough extraction, getting Biden out of the race.
Yes, it was.
And we brought in the head of oral surgery at UCLA, Nancy Pelosi. And you and I were like a couple of hygienists, like hacking away at it. But Dr. Nancy came in and did it.
Ma kicks things off by making a point that even some conservatives can agree with. He reminds his guests that the left is far better off staying center-left, instead of drifting into the ideological abyss of the far left. And honestly, it's hard to disagree with him on that. Certain left-leaning ideas like abortion rights, LGBTQ equality, and modern gender roles are conversations worth having. But once the pendulum swings into the extreme with pronoun policing, biological males competing in women's sports, and the idea of children undergoing gender transitions, it stops being progress and starts looking like madness. That's where the far left loses the plot and where Maher, to his credit, draws the line.
The country wanted something different. And the Democrats, they weren't looking for ethnic cleansing. They weren't looking for a war. They weren't looking for a new entitlement. The country wanted something different than Trump and Biden, and we gave it to them. And I'm not surprised the country's responding favorably. I really not.
Yeah, I thought that, for one thing, they sounded like America, which, has been a problem with the left in recent years. They didn't sound like they liked America too much. And this convention, I heard a lot of it. You're lucky to be an American. You're privileged. It's the greatest country in the world. It's like, thank you. Did you hear that, Congressman? Did you feel like that was sincere?
Well, first off, let's be honest, nobody exactly rallied behind Kamala Harris in the last election. For someone with full establishment backing, endless Hollywood endorsements, and a mountain of campaign cash, she should have won in a landslide. But she didn't even come close. And yet, the left still clings to this bizarre fantasy that Harris ran one of the closest races in history. That couldn't be further from the truth. She lost multiple swing states, failed to secure the popular vote, and got absolutely trounced in the Electoral College. This wasn't a nail-biter, it was a political crash landing. The numbers don't lie. What the left calls momentum was really just delusion dressed up as hope.
I never criticize Democrats for putting on a good show. I will never criticize Democrats for being good at politics. What I criticize Democrats for is being bad at policy and governing. They put on a great show. They got those celebrities in there. They dusted off those American flags that they had previously held in the attic or burned occasionally. And then they brought them out for that freedom wave.
Very few Democrats burned
the Democrat activists burned down cities. We, as members of Congress, just a few weeks ago, we had to go put American flags back up over Union Station in Washington, D.C.
Yes, Crenshaw is absolutely right. We've all seen those moments during Pride Month, when the White House swaps out the stars and stripes for the pride. Flag as if patriotism is something you can conveniently rotate on a calendar. It's symbolic of a broader problem, selective love for America. They wrap themselves in the flag when it's time to win votes or preach unity. But the moment protesting becomes politically fashionable, that same flag turns into a target. Suddenly, it's being burned in the streets or mocked online by the very people who claim to stand for freedom. Crenshaw's point hits hard because it exposes that double standard. Loving America only when it serves your agenda isn't patriotism, it's performance.
Good show.
you're right.
It's full of hope and joy, and I get it. Like, that's great. Starry-eyed views of optimism of the future. But on policy, not so great. And in the end, this is going to be about policy. They were very light on that. Why? Because they don't want to contend with the fact that they own the last 4 years of policy. We do have a very unique opportunity here where we have two candidates where you can look at 4 years and 4 years. You know exactly what they're going to do, and you know exactly what the outcomes are. And on every metric, Donald Trump wins on this. And so that's what we're going to keep pushing this election toward, is what are the metrics that will actually make your life better? Donald Trump wins on this, on the policy and the outcomes associated with that.
Crenshaw hit the nail right on the head. Democrats are still running on vibes and slogans instead of substance, and that's exactly why they're floundering. Even now, nearly a year after losing the election, they can't articulate a clear, unified vision for the future. Ask 10 Democrats what their policy priorities are, and you'll likely get 10 different answers, each more contradictory than the last. There's no coherent economic plan, no firm stance on border security, and no clear message for working-class Americans who feel forgotten during the campaign. Kamala Harris had wall-to-wall media coverage, celebrity endorsements, and deep-pocketed donors. But none of that can replace a real message. When the dust settled, voters saw right through it. That's why they lost, not because of bad luck, but because they stood for nothing that truly resonated with everyday Americans.
Hey, you know they're having a celebration of them on September the 5th. Trump celebrating the J6 people. I thought my boss, President Clinton, made an undeniable point of Democratic policy. Since the end of the Cold War, there have been 51 million jobs created in the United States. 50 million were created under Democratic presidents and 1 million under Republican presidents.
You know, that's
50 to 1.
You've got to be able to tie. If you're going to make claims like that.
First of all, I love you, I love Clinton. It's a thing to say.
Okay.
Because as we both know, am I right?
Yeah.
As we both know, jobs created, it has a lot to do with what the last guy did. Clinton got rid of Glass-Steagall. Did that have anything to do with the collapse in 2008 of the economy? I think it did. So maybe some of the jobs that were lost.
I'm sorry.
It's just a bullshit thing.
Maher's absolutely right. It's never just about the number of jobs. It's about the quality of those jobs and the real economic stability they create. You can brag about millions of new jobs, but if most of them are low-wage, part-time or temporary positions, that's not real progress. What often gets ignored is how many jobs disappeared during the same period, canceling out much of the so-called growth under Clinton-era economic management in 2008. The numbers may have looked decent on paper, but the foundation was weak. Many of those jobs offered little long-term security or upward mobility, while the economy was bleeding in other areas, rising costs, stagnant wages, and a housing crisis quietly building beneath the surface. So while the stats made for good headlines, they didn't reflect the lived reality of working Americans. Maher's point cuts through the spin. Job quantity means nothing without genuine economic quality.
Tie a policy to an outcome. I can tie policies from Donald Trump to outcomes. So you cut taxes, you cut regulations. What does that do? It makes it easier to do business and hire people. So you're going to have job growth. You had 8% wage increase after inflation under Donald Trump before the pandemic. Actually 16% if you're talking about the lowest quintile of earners. Under Biden, it's been 0. So on every metric, he wins, and I can go down the list.
I guess that the crime is down 30%, the stock market is up. The metrics that y'all choose are just BS metrics.
No, I choose metrics.
Nope, it's not a BS metric. It's the metric that actually matters. When we talk about the economy, we're talking about real, tangible indicators, low inflation, meaningful tax cuts, reduced regulation, and policies that empower businesses to grow. Those are the fundamentals that drive job creation, raise wages, and strengthen the middle class. That's exactly why Trump connected with so many Americans and why Kamala Harris fell flat. He focused on what mattered most to working families: the cost of living, take-home pay, and a government that didn't choke small businesses with red tape. Meanwhile, Kamala and the Democrats were busy pandering to the fringe left, chasing culture wars instead of addressing kitchen table issues. At the end of the day, people vote with their wallets, not their hashtags, and that's the reality the left still refuses to understand.
Democrats have done a better job creation, but it's not 50-1. So don't lie to me. You know what? I'm an ally till you lie.
Please fact check. Either Bill's right or I'm right.
Well,
fact check.
but the numbers don't necessarily mean.
Okay. But it's 50-1.
You understand what my.
We had the lowest unemployment in 50 years under Trump. And again, you have to associate an outcome with policies. And you can't tell me what Biden policy resulted in better jobs. If we're increasing our jobs.
Also, there was a
Biden's
pandemic that had a lot to do with having.
There's a massive.
There's a lot of factors that go into it. It's a thing. Again, let's move on.
I'm sure James Carville expected Bill Maher to jump right in and back him up when he confidently rolled out that talking point about Democrats creating 50 million jobs compared to Trump's 1 million. It sounded like an easy win-a-clean moment to score political points, but Maher wasn't buying it. Instead of nodding along, he called Carville out on the spot. Pointing out that those numbers don't tell the full story, Maher explained that job creation isn't a simple scoreboard. You have to factor in context economic cycles, global events, and the post-pandemic recovery that artificially inflated those figures. In other words, correlation doesn't equal causation. Carville tried to spin it as proof of Democratic superiority, but Maher reminded everyone that raw numbers can be misleading. And real leadership is about sustained economic quality, not flashy headline statistics.
Country simply has no education standards anymore. They will let you out of a public high school and give you a diploma, and you don't have to actually know anything, which used to be the mission of schools, knowing things. I know it's super important to stop the grooming of our kids, or, I don't know, to start it. And certainly critical race theory must be stricken from the curriculum, or who knows, maybe included in all of it. But, you know, while we're having those fights, could someone please notice that the kids don't actually know anything?
While everyone is busy arguing about the economy, the real crisis is unfolding in our classrooms. America's education system is a mess, plain and simple. Students are graduating without basic reading, writing, or math skills because ideology has replaced merit. Programs like Day-Yang critical race theory have turned schools into social experiments where attendance matters more than achievement. Diplomas are handed out like participation trophies, and excellence has been sacrificed on the altar of equity. Meritocracy, the very foundation that once made American education the envy of the world, has been tossed aside. Now we're reaping the consequences, a generation of students unprepared for real-world challenges, unable to compete globally, and conditioned to believe that effort doesn't matter. This isn't just a failure of policy, it's a moral failure that's slowly eroding the nation's intellectual backbone.
I travel this country on weekends doing stand-up now. I see the political ads that are running on the local TV markets, and I think, how can this possibly work on people? And then I remember, oh yes, they think Queen Elizabeth is from Egypt. When again, plainly, it's Brazil.
Yep, there's really no telling the extent of the damage Democrats inflicted on our education system while in power. Years of prioritizing political agendas over academic excellence have left our schools weakened, our teachers frustrated, and our students underprepared. But thankfully, that tide is starting to turn. Our president is stepping up to correct those wrongs and bring accountability back to the classroom, taking legal action against institutions that promote divisive, woke ideologies instead of real learning. He's sending a powerful message. Schools are for education, not indoctrination. It's about restoring merit, discipline, and common sense, the values that once made America's education system the envy of the world. If this momentum continues, we could see our schools return to what they were meant to be, places where truth, hard work, and excellence actually matter again. In the end, Maher's conversation perfectly exposed what's wrong with today's political and cultural climate. The left has drifted so far from reason that even lifelong liberals like Maher are calling them out. Instead of focusing on real issues, improving the economy, fixing education, and protecting meritocracy, they've obsessed over identity politics and performative wokeness. Meanwhile, Americans are tired. They care about inflation, jobs, and giving their kids a decent education, not pronouns. Protests or pandering. Leaders like Trump and Crenshaw understand that strength comes from substance, not slogans. And as Maher proved, even those on the left can see that the far-left experiment has failed. The country doesn't need more virtue signaling, it needs results. It's time to bring back common sense, accountability, and pride in hard work, the values that built America in the first place. That's the only way forward, and that brings us to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe to Pixel Fork for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.